Gather round, gentlemen, as we're about to go aboard on this charming canal cruise. And while we're at it, we're going to dig deep into a specific reference. Yet, the 2526 isn't just another Calatrava. In fact, it might be the most refined time-only dress watch in history. We will walk you through the different aspects of this beautiful Patek Philippe in today's watch guide of the Patek Philippe Calatrava 2526.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. So we're starting off with the model line, the Calatrava. In the early 30s, this line was immediately introduced by the Stern brothers. The Stern brothers just took over a large part of Patek Philippe as the company found itself in a financially troubling position. This wasn't the time for more innovative and highly complicated movements. Because of the Great Depression, this wasn't simply a good timing, but a simple design and elegance instead, based on the Bauhaus principles. Time only but reliable and accurate, the Rev 96 was born. The name derives from the Calatrava cross, a symbol used by knights in the 12th century. Both the name and the symbol were already registered by Patek Philippe in the very beginning of the company. They haven't been used, however, until the 96 launched in 1932. As by the name, one can guess the significant role it has played for Patek throughout their history up to this day. And in almost 100 years of production, it has seen so many variations, all different, but true to their value. Form follows function. One example is the 570 that was launched in 6 years after the introduction of the 31mm measuring 96. Many people considered the 96 to be slightly too small, and thus they introduced the reference I'm wearing for this video. The production of the 96 didn't cease, as it was still being made until 1973, simultaneously with almost 36mm measuring 565 and 570, for example. But this Rev we're looking at today is the glorious 2526. When introduced, the 2526 came with quite a hefty price tag of 3,400 Swiss francs. Might sound like a joke to you, but this was a lot of money for a watch in the 50s. For comparison, the almighty 2499 retailed for just 400 Swiss francs more, and the 2526 was merely a time-only dress watch, not a grand complication like the aforementioned. But to fully understand why this quite exorbitant asking price is just, we divided the watch in separate chapters to examine all parts of this precious Patek. Back in 1953, it was immediately received with high regard, demonstrated by the clientele that obtained one. Besides the famous Andy Warhol, another client was the distinguished collector J.B. Champion. He got his hands on the very first one that saw the light of day. It has no predecessor or successor. A watch like this has never been made before, and unfortunately it turned out it will never be made again. In 1960, the production ceased after a few thousand pieces in different configurations. Today, we have the pleasure to demonstrate the different aspects of this beautiful reference with the watch laying in front of us and some extra examples. Let's start with the case created by Genevan master F. Baumgartner. It comes in at 36mm and has a slightly amorphous shape instead of a coin-edge angular design. It's quite thick, and unlike most other Calatravas, it features a screw back rather than a snapback, making the watch somewhat waterproof. Adding to the sportiness is a small convex bezel mounted on top of the case. Although it has quite fat locks, the overall design remains stylish and elegant since it's pretty straightforward. Depending the material and country it was delivered to, hallmarks can be found in both the case as well as the lugs. As you can expect from Patek Philippe, none in stainless steel ever saw the light of day. This metal was seen as inferior for a refined wristwatch like the 2526, but you could instead aim at one in platinum or white gold. These are the rarest executions, and approximately less than a total of 25 of each metals rolled out of the factory. Most of them had the traditional 18 yellow gold case, whilst the rose gold was slightly more uncommon with a ratio of 1 to 10 compared to the yellow gold one. Now details do matter, especially when it's as cool as this Patek Philippe's crown. All Pateks with this caliber are fitted with the double P sign crown. Whilst not unique to the 2526, it is something that definitely catches the eye. Sizing is spot on and the detail is eminent. Next up are the bracelet and clasp. I would say the bracelet is subordinate to a dress watch. This is usually not taken into account when designing a piece like this, and most of them came on a leather strap of choice anyway, just like this one. But I believe the bracelet plays an important part of the 2526. And curiously, what I found out is that the majority of them were actually sold and thus born on the solid metal bracelet matching the material of the case. Always designed by none other than the famous Geefger. In the clasp, one can find the GF deer as the hallmark, and oftentimes, but not necessarily, it's also signed by Patek Philippe. Again, the double P logo matching the crown of the case. Now on to something really interesting, the dial. Most collectors know the 2526 as the Calatrava with the double baked enamel dial. The use of enamel for dial making is something we rarely see, and it's only being done by the very top of the brands, mainly due to the fact that it's rather costly and it's also difficult to produce. Today, Patek still creates specials with the so-called cadran émail, but back in the days it was really unique. Even more so because the 2526 was not a limited edition, nor a super complication, nor only available upon special request. But what is so special about the decorative art of enameling? Well, first of all, aesthetically it adds so much charm to the watch. The way the light reflects on the surface, it's just fascinating for me. The thick lace creates dimples near the batons and also the base of the hands, especially on these first series dials. And in combination with the deep brown text and the second markers, it gives an unparalleled depth, something I haven't seen on any other watch. But secondly is the durability. The Patek brochure read, "The dial of baked enamel is impervious to the action of outside agents, such as tarnishing produced by sunlight." Whilst it was meant to last forever, the result turned out to be quite different. Enamel is in fact hard and strong, but it has the tendency to break or shatter since it does not react well to the slightest of bending. It's a nightmare, but it's something that could happen when dropped, for example. Service replacement dials were later installed by Patek if they broke, for example, but those were not enameled. The enamel dial is iconic to the Calatrava, but not all of them were fitted with one. In fact, the most special ones aren't. For example, the famous LBJ dials that read "Do unto other as you would have them do unto you." The ones with diamond markers instead of the batons aren't enamel either. There are a couple more of special dials, for example one with applied Breguet numerals, you have one with luminous Arabic hour markers, retailer signed ones, or black dials rather than the eggshell enamel. Anyhow, all of them super cool. The movement does a lot of the heavy lifting to maintain the prestige the 2526 is known for. I myself, not that much of a movement geek, but I'm inclined to make an exception for the 12600 AT, as it is what I believe the best time-only movement ever. It was launched in 1953 and straight away featured in multiple references, including the 2526 as their first self-winding caliber. It is not like Patek Philippe wasn't able to produce automatic movements earlier on, but Rolex had a 20-year patent on this mechanism. And if you witness the construction and finishing of the movement, my best guess would be they used these 2 decades to develop and fine-tune the 12600, because really quality-wise it stands in a league of its own. It's incredible. And this is where it really gets interesting and in my opinion elevates Patek Philippe from other brands. I said witness. This is because you have to unscrew the case back in order to behold the beauty, since see-through case backs weren't invented yet. So basically, the hand finishing they applied to decorate the 18-karat rotor, for example, was something the customer would probably never see, nor had it any practical reason, but they did it anyway. So for me, that's going the extra mile and not bragging about it. But boy, it must be a real joy for a watchmaker to open this watch and discover the swan neck regulator or the Gyro Max balance wheel that is making sure the watch can be adjusted to extreme precision, just a second variation in 24 hours, at least that's what they said. So the Gyro Max still is a trademark up to this day, and Patek Philippe's own seal of quality, which was introduced in 2009, is inspired on the PP crest engraved on the rotor of this movement. So this is what we mean when we say there's so much more to a watch than just telling time. Putting it in historical perspective, and after thorough examination, we are ready to jump to the conclusion that the 2526 is in many aspects a perfect watch. I mean, what is there not to love? I hope my appreciation for this Calatrava is shared, and next time you might look at one or see something in the wild, it will give you the same warm feeling that it gives me when I take a look at the Patek Philippe Calatrava 2526. Well, thank you for watching our video. We would appreciate a subscription, and that way you'll make sure not to miss out on any of these beautiful watch guides. The KOV says goodbye for now.